Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn with me, Julie Cameron, a business growth specialist with Action Coach Solly Hull. Now, I have the absolute pleasure of saying that we have Rachael McGillion-Fee from ISEL Digital. Get my words out right today, Rachael. ISEL Digital with us today to talk about everything digital marketing. So good afternoon, Rachael.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much. And I hope you are too. For those that are listening in on Facebook, LinkedIn, or even on our YouTube channel, please do pop in the comment boxes. Tell us where you are listening from this lunchtime. Say hello. And if you have any questions for Rachael, please pop them in the chats. It'd be really good to get some hard questions for her. That she's hard questions. Yeah, please.
Monday. I can't have hard on a Monday.
It'd be good to get some difficult questions for her, get them in there for her to be able to answer them. I have total little faith, Rachael. So let's start from the beginning. Business journey. Have you always done digital marketing, social media?
Gosh, no. Yes. So my very first job, as I revealed on Friday when I was doing another presentation, was in a fruit shop. In Birmingham, but that was when I was 15. And then my business journey. I progressed through from being a PA in a commercial property business, right through to working for an IFA and becoming a qualified mortgage advisor. And then when I had my children, I wanted more flexibility, so I sort of fell into social media. So I started doing some stuff whilst I was on maternity leave, with an online blogging platform, and doing some sales for their website, etc., and running social media pages for them. And then I discovered I really liked it, so I then started. That's how ISEL Social, as it was originally started, was specialising in social media. But then in the last couple of years, since the pandemic hit, I went diversified, and the business evolved into digital marketing, paid advertising, etc. So so no, I haven't always done it, but I love it.
So what appeals? I was going to say, you can tell that you love it actually when you talk to you about it. So obviously there's a lot of people out there that are really kind of they've gone from paid employment to having their own business. What made you kind of go, right, today's the day, let's seize the moment and do it?
I suppose, well, I was quite lucky in that I was made redundant, so I had redundancy. But the other thing was that I wanted to work flexibly around the children. So I've got a daughter and a son, who are now 11 and 8. I wanted something that I could do sort of at any time of the day and night, which is exactly when I could do it, and from wherever there's an internet signal, which proved difficult this summer, to be fair. But yeah, so that was the appeal. But also, once I became more and more knowledgeable, what had also attracted me was being able to pass that knowledge on in layman's terms to people who are setting up their own businesses or have started their own businesses, or people that don't have the knowledge or experience, being able to tell them in layman's terms and help them with the digital world, I guess.
Yeah, because it changes constantly, doesn't it? I suppose in that respect.
It's constantly changing, constantly evolving. I get messages all the time where a big one at the moment is Google, because Google My Business as a app has disappeared. So people now, you manage your Google profile on the Google just through Google search, and unless you're working within the digital world, you wouldn't have known that. So a lot of people messaging me going, I've lost my Google My Business app, I've got no access to this. And it's well, actually you just do it like this. And having to appeal things like reviews going missing on Google, people losing their Facebook page as well. That's a big thing, that and their business manager in Facebook, how they which they advertise through. So yeah, that's a really big thing. So most people can sort of keep Facebook and Instagram ticking along nicely, but once they sort of want to get to the next level, that's when it gets complicated, and that's when I can help them. I mean, I can help them with the ticking along thing. I can set them up, etc. But I find that it's mostly, not mostly, but I suppose a lot of my business is reactive, where people come to me because they've got a problem. And in the words of Vanilla Ice, yo, I'll solve it.
Love it, love it. So let's go back to that first day when you went, right, I'm going to set up my business. Can you remember what was the first thing that you did?
Created the name.
Ah.
So yeah, I was like, what shall I call it? And then I realised I've got 2 children, Isla and Ellis. So that is where ISEL comes from. And over the years, I have managed to have different, so each letter represented a different word which was relevant, but obviously at the moment I can't think of them now. But yeah, so that's where the name, and a lot of people do say, well, where does it come from? And someone used to think it was ISEL, as in ISEL Digital Marketing, which sort of worked well as well. So but yeah, it's a combination of my 2 children's names. So it was the first thing was the name. And then obviously it was getting myself set up digitally.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I'm sure that was on the top list of priorities. Would you say that that's something that all business owners should do first?
Yes, it's a difficult one, because some business owners, it depends which business they're in. Yes, all businesses, in my opinion, need a digital footprint, obviously, because that's where everybody is. Everybody looks at, first, I was speaking to a group of people last week about where's the first place that you go to when you're looking for example, a painter and decorator. Where do you look? There is no yellow pages anymore. Well, there's no physical yellow pages anymore. So they look on Google, or they look for recommendations on Facebook or Instagram. Or sorry, not so much Instagram, Facebook groups, etc. So yes, however, so for the likes of myself, where it was like, yes, I knew what I was doing, so getting it all set up. For the likes of someone that may not know the digital world, it's better to sort of have a plan in place, speaks to someone like myself or other digital marketers, social media experts, before they set anything up, because what they don't want to do is set something up and then 12 months later they still haven't done anything with it. Because so it's just
yeah, I was going to say, it's quite interesting you say about the yellow pages, because like, say we go back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever. I mean, I'm talking my lifetime, you go find, I was talking to my dad at the weekend, who's, a bit obviously older than myself. And he was saying, but I need this, where shall I go? And I was just like, just look on the internet. I don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, well, you can't go to the yellow pages anymore. I want the yellow pages. Do you know what I mean? It was quite, it's quite apparent that the entire world has gone online.
Yeah. And that actually, that's sort of it is a shame for that generation, because like my dad or my parents, they're like, my mum used to like to leaf through the Argos catalogue. That's no longer a thing. Equally though, they're very fascinated when I order something and it just arrives in the post the next day. It's like, that's amazing.
But it is, what is quite funny is that, like, obviously we've both got children, and my 8-year-old last year wanted the catalogue for the toy shop, and literally spent hours going through it and then cutting out what he wanted to put on his Christmas list, and he made like a bit of a dream board.
I was going to say, is that because he's a son of coaches? He's got a vision board.
quite possibly, but he wanted to do it, but he spent hours, honestly. But the challenge was, we then had to go and get another catalogue to realize what the prices were and what the actual thing was, because he just cut out the actual pretty picture, and then when I want that, we were like, what is that? I've got no idea. But I'm just wondering, like, whether it will come back around, whether it's like that generational thing that
Possibly.
actually seeing that there's something really satisfied by going through a catalogue.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it shows a lot about the person, I suppose, more than as a kinesthetic kind of thing. So what was your dream? What's your ambition when you're setting up your business? Was it just the flexibility that like appealed, or was it like global domination, Rachel?
Flexibility definitely was the main sort of driver, and also being able to help businesses. Businesses, people, in layman's terms. I work with a lot of women, in particular. I work with both sexes, but I do work with a lot of women who are a bit scared of social media, and don't really necessarily want to have their face on social media, but they've got a business to promote. So that was a bit of a driver as well in how to, help them be less scared of social media. So that's a driver as well, because I was scared, and still do get days where I think, I'm not showing my face. But which is ironic because I'm now live on social media. But at the same time, and that's what I advise them, you don't have to do it all the time. It's been so, I think that, it being someone that's approachable, that's not, and I'm not being ageist, but is not necessarily sort of a lot younger than the person that needs the help.
Yeah.
That was another.
And what's quite interesting, I mean, Steve Charman's put on here saying, good to see two familiar faces online. Hi, Steve. It's lovely to have you with us today, Steve. I hope you're on your lunch break, by the way. You'll be like, no. But obviously you talk about social media and we talk about digital marketing. So what is digital marketing in comparison to social media? People may think it's the same thing, but it's not, is it?
No. So social media is one aspect of digital marketing. So digital marketing is a culmination of lots of things that you do online to promote your business, to get in front of new customers, but also to keep in touch with current customers, to ensure that they become repeat customers. So there's various aspects. So things such as email marketing, social media, SEO, search engine optimization on your website, video content marketing, blogs. There's a whole realm of things that come under the digital marketing umbrella. It's quite rare that you find someone that will have all those skills in one place. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I don't profess to be an SEO expert. I dabble. I'm not an expert, but this is where I can work with associates, and work with associates, bring them in and help a business by saying, well, actually, I know someone that does that. I work with associates that do that. Why don't I manage it for you? Because very often, if they're not knowledgeable about the digital world, they don't know what assets of it they need to tap into. So and that is actually one of my favorite things to do, apart from the training, is to get a whole strategy in place and then work with the associates to implement it, and then to see the positive impact of that on the business or school organisation.
So why was it social media that attracted you rather than the SEO or the website or the other aspects of digital marketing?
It's visual. So whilst I love English, and I do like writing, I like a bit of designing as well, and it's very visual. It's very instant, although obviously scheduling as well. It can be reactive. I'm quite good at reactive social media, as I found out last week. But so that's probably why. yeah, I like the different aspects. I like the interaction. So that's another thing that I do for my clients is interact, because social media is social. It's not just buy, sell. You do actually have to interact with your followers and with people that you follow in order to get the most out of it. So yeah, I really enjoy that aspect of it as well.
So what would you, so obviously it was quite, we were just chatting before we came on live actually, and I just had this one-to-one with somebody who is a graphic designer, and she specialises in niches in logos, and she says that constantly she gets told, well, I could just create that on Canva, why would I pay you to do that for me? And I remember like when Glenn set out with Action Coach in Solihull, and I said to Glenn, I was like, how can I support, how can I help? And he was like, do social media. And I was just like, he goes, you're always on Facebook, you can do it for us. And I was just like, you know, total panic going, because it's very different, isn't it, doing social media for yourself, for personal, because you're like, my day's been great, my day's been rubbish, here's a picture of my kids, you know, let's go here, to actually doing it for a business. Do you find that people struggle with that aspect like I did?
Yeah, so I mean, there's lots of things that go into a social media strategy, which is then just one arm of your digital marketing strategy. Time of day that you're posting, the size of the images that you're posting. Are you posting images or videos? What is the current trend? You know, what's the trend? What's most likely to get the most interaction at the moment? So, for example, I'm sure most people that are marketing a business will know that Reels and video are king at the moment. So, yeah, it's knowing what to post, when to post, tone of voice. Especially I would say at the moment, obviously with what's going on in the wider world, you know, it's very, I did a video last week about last Thursday evening about thinking about, you know, what sort of content you've got scheduled for the sort of next week or two. Will it lend itself well to the current situation in the country? You know, thinking about when if you're going to take a break from social media due to you know, national mourning, how are you going to go back onto social media? So it's having the knowledge to be able to do things like that. And actually it's quite telling that I have seen stuff over the last few days. It's like, I'm not sure you should be posting that. And then negative. I mean, people do think interaction, whether it be negative or positive, is interaction, but actually you don't want to harm your brand with negative interaction. So yeah, just it's just the knowledge to be able to think of stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
I thought being able, sorry, Karen.
It's okay. So being able to, so for example, last Thursday afternoon, I sent an email out to all of my clients to say, you need to think about what you're going to be doing over the next few days, weeks, you know, should the worst happen. Unfortunately, it did. You know, they came back to me and they, you know, with suggestions of what they wanted. I then advised, yep, that's a good idea, or no, it's, you know, I think you should perhaps do it like this, which was fine. However, if they haven't got someone like me there, they would, you know, potentially harm their brand by posting inappropriately. So it's reading the trends as well as just posting.
Yeah, and I think that this obviously with the Queen passing away, which is obviously what we're talking about, you know, it's quite apparent. I mean, I've seen it over the weekend that some people have had scheduling tools and haven't like looked at what they've got scheduled, because all of a sudden this happy joyful post comes out and you're like, ooh, really, you know, maybe not the best thing to be posting at the moment. And it does catch people unaware, especially if they're trying to be organized within the business. Is there that argument that scheduling tools aren't great, or is it a case of we should just react more, or should we be proactive and schedule things? Is there a good thing to do or not?
Yeah, the schools that I work with, I tend to work with them doing what I call pillar posts. So that is where I work with them, ensuring that we've got posts going out throughout the week and the holidays, not just the week, not just term time. So, and I would work on that, and I would help them with that. But then they've got reactive stuff where they're sharing videos, what the kids have been up to, etc., which obviously I'm not on site for. So there's an argument for both. There's proactive, where you're obviously scheduling content where you've got an event coming up, or that there's a day that your business lends itself well to, so stuff like that. But then there is the stuff in between, and then there's all the different aspects of social media. So if you think about using your stories for stuff that is, so for example, I will be posting on my stories after this with regard to this is what we're doing today, and that'll be off in 24 hours. But it's using all the different tools that social media offers you to be able to do that.
And does that help with the algorithm? Does that, because we always hear this buzzword, the algorithm, does that help with the algorithm? But does it?
Yeah.
Does that mean that you're in front of more people? How does that work?
Yeah, so the more interactive you are, the better it works. So like I say, using all the different aspects or assets that social media offers you will help. So for me, I say, if you can do a story a day, you can do 10, however many stories a day. So you've always got something ticking along. And they don't have to look pretty. They don't have to be, look great on your grid, because if they don't have to be aesthetically pleasing. They just have to be relevant. So that is what I sort of say is try and get something on there, even if it is just a story, but then don't over pressurize yourself to be posting something on your grid or your page or whatever, or even on your Google profile every single day, because if you make that job that big, you're not going to get around to it. But that is where working with someone like a digital marketer or a social media marketer helps, because people very often think, and I spoke to a lady last week, but I have to post every day. People keep telling me I have to post every day, and I'm like, well, have you done that since you started your business? No. Well, so you don't have to do these. Posting a couple of times a week is better than not posting at all, or having the pressure of posting every day. So yeah, it's I think that's the thing. And even if so I work a lot with businesses at startup, where they come to me for advice, or they come to me for training, and I help them set everything up for them. And then they go away and they manage it themselves. Even if you haven't got the budget to have a social media marketer or a digital marketer on hand on retainer, if you can afford to have someone there at the beginning to give you pointers and tips, then hopefully maybe when your business grows, then you can outsource eventually. So that is what I would say to businesses starting.
Yeah. What would you set up as a new starter then? Is it a case of just a Facebook page? Is it, I was going to say Google My Business. You see, this is how backwards I am. Do you know what I mean? But a week ago, that would have been fine. But do you know what I mean? So it's like, what would you recommend that they get set up?
So depends which platforms they use, depend on the audience and the clients they're trying to attract.
Yeah.
So if it's business to customer person, B2C client, then Facebook and Instagram, maybe TikTok, depending on the general thing. So yeah, those are the platforms, and for everyone, Google, they need to be on Google. But the other digital asset they need is some sort of a website presence, whether that be a one-page inquiry form website. This is what we do. Fill this form in and contact us. They need some sort of a digital presence, because there are studies that show that people with all of those assets that businesses with all those assets are more trusted. But then if it's so for example, with yourselves, B2B, LinkedIn is a massive thing for you guys. Whereas if I'm working with a hairdresser, I wouldn't necessarily say you need to be on LinkedIn every day. Well, nobody needs to be on every day, but you need to be on LinkedIn. Unless they were, specifically trying to attract corporate customers. So different businesses lend themselves to different platforms because of the different.
We always, absolutely. I mean, we always talk about, as a coach, who are your clients, and where do they hang out? Because absolutely pointless, quite rightly, as you say, if you're looking for that customer, that you're a hairdresser, then in the nicest possible way, why would you be on LinkedIn with it being business orientated? You would be on Facebook, getting reviews from clients that have visited you. And that's where your clientele will hang out, in those Facebook groups looking for recommendations, wouldn't they? Whereas like for me, who's looking for the business owners, yes, there is some business owners on Facebook, but the majority of them are on LinkedIn. It's that other platform, isn't it? And equally, would I go onto TikTok? Now there's an argument that you can get a lot of business from TikTok. To be fair, is TikTok a platform that you utilize, Rachel?
I'm currently updating my services on that. So I know. So I've got associates that work on TikTok. But it's definitely something that I have recognised I need to tap into more, especially now that they do paid advertising on there.
So
you can sell products and stuff on there. So it's certainly something that I do recognise that I need to be more familiar with, whether or not I offer it as a service or whether I continue to offer it as an associate service. We will see.
One thing that's really coming out is about how constantly social media in particular changes. Absolutely, like can change day to day. Where do you find out your information? Where do you keep on top of it all? Because I don't, honestly, we're talking about Google My Business, and I like to think that I'm pretty on top of things that are changing within the business world, etc. But that was one that left fielded me. I wasn't appreciating that it was coming. So how do you keep on top of all that information?
It's following following relevant influencers within my industry. Going on. So I do. I join a lot of webinars. I join a lot of Facebook webinars, a lot of Google webinars. So they do offer, when the stuff changes, they do have the people that are utilising and selling that form. So that's what they do. And just following the relevant publications and stuff. Always, looking out for stuff that is changing. We sort of, I tend to know a couple of weeks in advance when stuff is changing, or even longer, ahead of that. I go to a lot of online conferences and stuff, just to be aware of changes that will be coming into place, or trends that they think, actually this seems to be happening now. And obviously it's affected by the greater. It's not just whatever's happening within the digital world. Whatever's happening in the big wider world, wars, sovereigns passing away, economic climate, etc., that will all affect what's happening in the digital world. So it is to keep abreast of it, especially so with things like paid advertising. That's very often affected, and it's affected seasonally as well, actually. Facebook advertising becomes more expensive at Christmas because it's so much more competitive. So things like that. So just tend to keep up to date as much as I can.
Yeah, I mean, one question that we always talk about, does Facebook advertising work? Does it work? Does it actually?
It depends which one you're referring to.
but do you know what I mean? People say, is it a good revenue, a good lead generator? or should you do competitions on Facebook instead, or should you, oh no, that's a definite no, look at that face on. But do you know what I mean? There's a lot of different things, is it just, would you recommend that somebody, loads of questions here, Rachel, like as in we talk about content, is it like sell on your content, on your post? What is the strategy? Is it a combination? I mean, Mark Pearson's online and he was saying great advice, but it is that strategy aspect, that strategy question, so does paid advertising work for everybody?
Depends what your budget and your goal is.
Okay.
So and that's another one of my jobs is to make sure you've got realistic realistic expectations after you've spoken to me.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean.
So yes, to manage expectations, I should say. So basically, it's not. It should be. Yeah, you're quite right in what you say. It's part of a bigger picture. So there's no good just setting up a Facebook page and then starting to run Facebook ads when you've got no posts on your Facebook page, because obviously people will be like, what? Or if you've got nowhere to send them to. So it's part of a bigger strategy. It's not instant. It's something that needs to be managed, and it's not something that I would say a lot of people, when they come to me, they say, yes, I'm already doing Facebook advertising, but actually what they're doing is using the Facebook boost button.
It's going to be my next question. To boost or not to boost? That's the question.
It's quite different. Well, it depends what your goal is. If you just want loads of people following your page, then yeah, but are those people all going to buy your product or service? So yeah, whether or not you want, so Facebook advertising through Facebook Business Manager, etc. It's all part of a bigger picture. And one of those things.
We seem to have lost Rachel. She did tell me this morning that she'd had a couple of power cuts. Let's see if she comes back or whether she's gone for good. But I think one thing that we can actually ascertain from her talking about digital marketing is that the social media is just one part of a bigger strategy, and that is part of your marketing strategy. We'll see if Rachel comes back shortly. She did tell me this morning that she'd had a number of power cuts. So let's hope that she's not had one now. The joys of being online and on Zoom. So any questions that you have for Rachel, please do pop them in the chat. Yeah, she's gone. She will probably, I'm sure, be back in a second. Just looking at the chat boxes that we've got online, we've also got Glenn saying good afternoon, Mark's saying about great advice, and like I said, Steve saying that he's back and hopefully still on his lunch. But I think one thing that we're learning from Rachel is that when you're setting up a business, regarding whether it is social media, business coaching, plumbing, whatever, things are important, and everybody goes around it in a different way. So it could be that people look for the name first. Obviously for Rachel, that was quite important. Charlie, for our last one, it was the why, it was the wherefore, and he Googled how to set up his own business. I think it's important to do what is right for you. I've just had a message from Rachel to say that unfortunately they have had a power cut, and so she won't be able to rejoin us this lunchtime. So I'm actually going to invite her back, and we will record it and pop another session out there, because I'm sure you'll all agree with me that it's been a great session with Rachel. Unfortunately, we won't be with us next Monday, with it being the bank holiday and the funeral of Her Majesty the Queen, but we'll be back the Monday after. But watch out in the meantime for the recorded version of the digital marketing for you. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you all again in a couple of weeks' time.